Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Well-Rounded Individual. I'm your host, Adam Schindler, and if you are watching this right now, go ahead and do me a favor and hit that subscribe button on YouTube. That's how I'm able to grow the show and just get it better and bring more quality to you. Today, you're in for a treat. I have got a great guest that I've known probably around 15 years or so. He is a super well-rounded individual. He is an educator. He's a coach. He's a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu. He has grown kids. He's a husband and an author of children's books. It is my pleasure. He hails from the great state of Texas, H-Town specifically. The Coach Chris Ortiz. Welcome to the show, brother. How are you?
Oh man, that's quite the intro. I'm gonna need you to introduce me every time I step into a classroom now, Adam.
Hey, I'm down for it. It's my pleasure to introduce you. I probably could have just drug that out a little longer because you've got so many accolades to add to that. But super happy to have you here. Actually, we've connected through podcasts before because you have your own podcast. It's called the Be Someone Podcast, based out of Houston, Texas, correct?
Oh yeah, we got the Be Someone podcast. We're about 175 episodes deep. And, we just like to talk to people that are doing good things in the world, and that's why I reached out to you, your fitness journey, your fatherhood journey, just your journey as a fighter, all the above.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so happy to be able to also have you on mine since you had me on, what was that, 2022-ish, right? I think that I was on the Be Someone
been a minute.
podcast. Yeah, it was super fun. That was my first one ever. So that was kind of breaking me into the game. So I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you.
It's all right, man. I remember you breaking me into those jiu-jitsu mats back then. So
that's awesome. So yeah, back in the day. So for those that don't know, Chris and I know each other through jiu-jitsu and through martial arts. And that's something that's going to be a heavy topic on today's show as well. And in just really ingraining it into our youth and beyond. But before we dig into those type of topics and into that martial arts conversation, I want to start off with a question that I asked everyone. Every guest that's ever on my podcast, I always like to ask them, with the name being well-rounded individual, what are some characteristics that you would describe a well-rounded individual would have?
When I think of a well-rounded individual, I think of someone that has balance. They're able to have their family, they're able to take care of themselves health-wise, sleep, diet, nutrition, take care of their career, and be able to do all that and wear a smile on their face for the most part, because they're not shouldering too much stress. They're well-rounded, so to speak, kind of like in jiu-jitsu, you notice a lot of the logos have a triangle, and it's an equilateral triangle to be exact. It's supposed to personify balance, so balance is the word that comes to mind.
I love that, balance. And I like that you touched on different accolades that you can add to your repertoire and add to your bag of tricks, but also being able to handle it otherwise, right? So having a temperament, because it's so easy for us to just get caught in the race of, more, and not being able to take care of what's inside and what is going to allow us to continue to excel. So that's a great point. And I'm really glad that you incorporated that in that answer. That's a great answer.
Oh, heck yeah. It's essential, right? If we're not taking care of ourselves and we're not well balanced, we're not going to be very good to the world, so I'm a big believer in balance in all aspects of life.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kind of dig into a couple of these just martial arts topics that I want to talk to you about. First of all, let's talk about your book first, because you have multiple children's books, and to me that's super duper cool. The only other person that I know that writes children's books, actually there are two, Jocko Willink and Andy Frisell, and they both write children's books. But being able to write a children's book that brings them life lessons from someone who has the experience, I think is just such a skill, a unique skill that not everyone can do. So tell me about your children's books. How did you get into that? What drove you for that? And then what's the premise behind them?
All right. Well, I'll tell you about the genesis. The genesis of the whole children's book ideas came from COVID. And there was two ways, or there was two things you could have done. You could have, sat on your couch and watched a lot of TV and played on the internet, and just turned into a sloth, or you could have went the other route where all these things that you had been wanting to do for your entire life, like you have the time, to go pursue those dreams. And I took it as an opportunity to do the things that I wanted to do, So I started writing children's books right around there. So my first one was kind of like a love letter to my mother. She was a single mother, and she took very good care of me and my brother, and she taught us a lot of life lessons, So the premise of that book was, the life lessons that a mother bestows upon her son. And the thing about my books is that they're hip hop infused, or they're rhyme infused.
Oh, very
So
cool.
they have like a Dr. Seussish kind of deal, where there's a rhyme scheme going so that they're entertaining. And, they're all just little bits and pieces of me. I got one to my father, I have one about my neighborhood. I have one about being a coach and the lessons, I hope my athletes pick up from me. And I have another one, about the students that I teach in class and how they have these hidden talents. And sometimes school doesn't recognize these hidden talents,
Yeah.
like the little entrepreneur that is selling Doritos and selling candy, but they get ISS for selling stuff on school property. So, yeah, I like to write about, stories and things that are important to me, especially this latest book.
Right. So I want to touch on a couple things that I heard you say there. Number one is, especially coming from an educator, I think it's so important that what I heard you say is that education isn't linear for everyone. And that especially children who maybe aren't the greatest at school, or maybe get into some trouble, they have, you're providing an outline and just a thought in a way that they can say, hey, I can still be successful. Does that make sense? Am I kind of on point there?
You're 100% on point. I see those kids every day.
That's amazing. And those kids, I think, are the ones that need it the most, right? Because they don't fit in the box. And that's something that I've always thought, like growing up through school, because I was always good at school, but I couldn't stand it. So I was like, I never thought that I needed it. And obviously school is very important. I'm not downplaying the importance of school, but just knowing that there are paths other than what the hierarchy tells you that you must do. So what a great outlet, man. I love that.
Oh yeah, I'm part of the machine, and I even have trouble, with the hierarchy or the structure or the box that we call school, So I think I've been put here in order to guide some of these young people and let them know that you have talents, and these talents, if you can just, keep everything in check, you can take these talents and you can do pretty well for yourself outside of this game called school, because it's just like a small part of your life.
Right.
You got to get through, you got to get the information so that you can apply, the thing, and give the world, or show the world your gift, so to speak. And all these kids got a gift in one capacity or another.
Man, you couldn't have said that any better. I love how you put that. Let's talk a little bit about flow state. So flow state is the latest one. So flow state to me sounds martial arts inspired.
Oh yeah, this is a book that's very near and dear to my heart at the moment, because martial arts has probably been the biggest vehicle for growth when it comes to me as a person. And I have an opportunity to watch these kids that are in martial arts in a school setting, and it's like these kids are amazing. Like, they transition very well. All the lessons that they're learning from the combat sports, like amateur wrestling, the Jiu-Jitsu kids, the kids that are practicing boxing, karate, whatnot. There are things that they are getting out of their martial art and their combat sport, and it's turning them into incredible human beings. So I really want to highlight the benefits of combat sports on our youth, because I think we could do better by our youth if we could offer more martial arts and make it more available and just bring more people into the fold.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, I think a lot of, what do you think? Let me backtrack just a minute. What do you think is the biggest barrier to more of a widespread of that kind of exposure?
Okay, so I'll give you two answers. Okay, First answer, I think it's pricey, right? Like if you're going to be in a gym, a dojo, or whatnot, or part of a program, you're going to spend some money, you know. So there's a barrier that's a price barrier. But here's the thing: you kind of see it across the board. If you're going to be a good volleyball player, like those clubs outside of school are very pricey. Basketball, baseball, like you name it, it's almost like a pay to play system. So schools, I think, could do a service to the community if they would allow, like a Trojan horse program of Jiu-Jitsu or combat sports of, you name it. It could be karate, taekwondo. I don't care. But there's some kids that are not being serviced that if we were to get them in a jiu-jitsu gi, if we could get them in front of, someone that boxes or whatnot, like a trial program, you'd see that the benefits would be through the roof. These kids are looking for someone to look up to. They're looking somewhere to go and work hard and expend their energy. They want to be part of a tribe, and I think that we can offer them that. To say it's not safe is, I don't think it's fair, because we put kids in football helmets and they go out there and they, get concussed, and they sit out 10 days and then they do it again. And, they may do it 5, 10, 15 times over the course of a lifetime, so why not try, jujitsu? Why not, get some boxing in there? And you see stories like, what is it? The Diaz brothers, who are saved by martial arts, and
Right.
Bobby King Green, who was saved by martial arts, and countless other people that say that martial arts saved my life. I'd like to spearhead a movement where we get, martial arts inside of a school, and not give me your bad kids. Give me the ones that are in the office all the time. Give me that 3% that take up 90% of the administrator's times, and let's see what we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I love like that angle that you just took, the angle of give me the bad kids, give me your bad kids, give me the kids that you can't do anything with, is such a great angle to take, because it's all about respect, right? I think martial arts is about respect and being able to bring kids who are, quote unquote bad, or, have rough lives or behavior problems or whatever, and you bring them into an environment with a strong teacher who respects himself or herself and respects others, but then gives them respect but demands it in return, can completely change the mindset of a young person. The respect behind the martial arts, I think, is probably the biggest game changer in changing lives, because let me know if you agree, but I think that a lot of times kids that are in that type of situation are there because they don't have a whole lot of self-respect, and they're able to gain that through the community.
Yeah, like we're all looking to be a part of a community. Like you can even see it with what's going on with the presidential race right now. Like I don't want to talk politics, but you can see like people are just wanting to jump on a team, one side or the other, and they'll give up, some of their ideals, in order to be on a team. We know good, God, and well, like nobody agrees wholeheartedly with either one of these candidates, right? But they just want to be part of a team. It feels good, So what I'm advocating for is, let's give some of these troubled kids, the Sean Stricklands of the world, the Bobby King Greens of the world, the Diaz brothers of the world. Let's find them a little bit earlier. Like, let's not, have to let them make 100 mistakes, before we can offer them something that's going to give them direction, and they can pour their time and energy into. And like I said, I think it's something that we can do. We just need, some people with powerful voices to start speaking up and advocating for it, and sponsoring people that want to do stuff like this,
Right.
throwing some gis our way, buying some mats so we can roll them out into the room, and just rattling the cage a little bit.
Yeah, that was kind of going to be like my next question, or my next, like, just area to dig into is, how do you think we facilitate this? How do you think this is facilitated? Like, in a perfect world, we have an administration within a school system, and upper level decision makers that say, you know what, this is a good idea, we should give it a try. What are the steps to that? What are some things that we could do? Because obviously when we talked about probably the biggest thing that keeps kids away out of, dojos and martial arts in general is funding, because, if you go to a good jiu-jitsu school, you're going to be paying a couple $100 a month on top of gis, on top of gear, on top of everything else, right? So how do we facilitate that, like, through a school system? Because we want quality instruction, right?
Mhm.
So we either, I'm just kind of like spitballing, thinking about ideas. We either find someone financially established, good to go, that is willing to volunteer, or we find someone who really believes in it to help fund it. What do you think is the best plan of action for that?
I am so glad you asked, Adam. I've thought about this a lot.
Yeah.
If you think about it, every high school is equipped with a wrestling room, right? So you
Mhm.
have the facility right there. I think in order to keep it from being watered down, because you don't want to put, just any Tom, Dick, Joe, or Harry in there, you make it like a district thing, And I think you started off with, one person that's very well educated in the grappling arts. We'll call it jiu-jitsu. I think jiu-jitsu is the perfect sport to start with, since it's the gentle art. And you take that one person and let them work with some of the district's most difficult children. You don't need 100 kids out of each school at first. Let's pluck. Let's handpick. 3 to 5 kids from each school at the secondary level. I get a bus. Bus them over for their PE credit, and let's engage. In an hour and a half, 2 hours of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Each and every day. We'll be able to get that energy out. One of the big things in education is, you got these kids and they're bored to death because nobody is wired to sit in a desk, for 6 to 8 hours a day. I just got through going through professional development, and every teacher, well, not every teacher, we'll say about 33% of the teachers were standing up in the middle of the professional development, and they're rocking and they're walking back and forth because they can't sit still, right? So why do we expect these kids to sit still in their desk? When us as educators, like, we can't even sit still. It's asinine, if you ask me.
Yeah.
So wrestling room, we can go no-gi jiu-jitsu. Hey, just bring some compression shorts, and a compression shirt. Community funding, and you can just pay a teacher their normal salary. I volunteered to do this in my district. I've reached out to some other districts. It always falls on deaf ears. No one wants to hear me out.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it is a plan that is worth fighting for. Maybe if, like, Dana White, right? Maybe if the people at Bellator, PFL, if they help me rattle the cage, like, we could try it somewhere and we could see, we can document, we can take the analytics, and let's see if we're, helping these kids move in the right direction. But I can tell you, like, the status quo is not what's best. We could do better. And it doesn't just have to be jiu-jitsu. That could be one component. There's other components. You could bring in, other things kids are interested in.
What do you think? What's the biggest backlash or the biggest reasoning why not that you get?
Okay, I think there is this thought that people have in their head that when you teach somebody how to fight, they're going to become, like, dangerous, and they're going to go out and use it, for bad. And it's funny, and you can speak to this, and I'm going to let you speak to it in a little bit. It actually makes you a more gentle soul. Like, when you're able to take care of yourself, you can walk into any room and just be relaxed, because you're not worried about anything popping off. Because if it does pop off, you know that you're going to be okay, right? And it's really the opposite of what people think. We're a lot more friendly. The ones that could really do something to you, we're the most friendliest guys out there. And I don't know. I'm just going to say it's just people don't understand until they try. I want you, if you could, man, because you're quite the martial artist yourself too, man. You're pretty, kind and well spoken, and you tell me, like, what would be the benefits of young people, taking jiu-jitsu in high school, or whatnot.
I mean, honestly, it is a game changer as far as getting your ego checked every day. I think a lot of times kids, especially young men, have so much energy inside, and you know, they have nowhere to process that energy, or I guess we'll call it ego, or
Yeah.
whatever you would like to call it. But when you're on a mat every day with like-minded people, and you're with your friends, and everybody's trying to help one another get better, and you're in a community, you're going to take some L's, and you're going to learn, and you're going to win as well. And I think that balance of being around other people who care about you and who love you, because I mean, I think you can speak to this as well. Every jiu-jitsu mat that I've ever been on, when I have like a great roll with another good person, at the end of it, like we hug, like, and we have so much fun, because maybe he gets me or maybe I get him. It creates a confidence, but it also creates such a humble experience, because you get got, and you get others as well. So I think that's a big part of it, is we're all on the mats, and we all understand that any given Sunday, right? Or any given roll, you can be gotten or you can win. And you take that out into life, and you treat others kindly, because you've had that confidence. You know what it takes. It's like the man in the arena, right? So there's never been the man in an arena who has, you know, I can't quote it off the top of my head, but that sentiment, right? So you expressed yourself valiantly through every effort, whether you win or you lose, and you understand what it takes. And that's the reason why you're so kind to other people.
Yeah, and the inverse is also true too. Like when you do take that L, you also realize like, okay, what are these other, sharks swimming around, this around this pool, So you just keep it in check. You keep it in check. It works both ways. You can take care of yourself, but then you're also highly aware that, there's other, sharks swimming around that could also take care of you. So I was a very hot-headed and, quick-tempered young man. When I was just lifting weights and swinging a baseball bat or playing rugby, I was quick to conflict. And ever since I started jiu-jitsu 15 years ago, in Muay Thai, I've become joyful, peaceful, and well-balanced. And people see me, walking around smiling all the time and being nice and saying hi to everybody. And I'm sure they wonder, like, what in the hell's wrong with him? Why is he so happy all the time?
Yeah, I can completely relate, because I feel like I'm always like smiling and laughing and joking, and I'm always in a good mood, and it's because I have done something with that energy otherwise as well.
Yeah.
What was man? There was a quote that I wanted to say. Actually, Tim uses it a lot. Tim Kennedy. He says,
Ooh, hero.
Yeah, he posted something, and I'm not sure if it's a creation of his, but he says you'll never know the violence it took to become this gentle.
I love that quote.
And
I love that.
That is something that I think that many of us who have competed, been in combat, and do it on a consistent basis can relate to. That, when someone hears that, just like the layman's ear hears that, they're like, oh, like violence, that can be like almost like triggering, like that you can be violent at all, right? But it's the reasoning behind such kindness.
Yeah.
And
big proponent.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just big proponent. The more there's plenty of quotes that speak to that, but big proponent.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we can go on and on about this, different quotes and everything, but yeah, I agree. So let's talk more about it, and continue to move. Is it just going to take more voices?
I think so. I think if we continue to rattle the cage, people are going to take heed, and they'll echo some of the things we're saying. Even what I'm saying is not an original idea. I've heard several other people talk about it. You mentioned Tim Kennedy. I was listening to a young lady named Cody Sanchez. She was talking to Michael Chandler, and they were, echoing the same sentiments. I think it's just one of those deals that when an idea has found its time, it's gonna eventually break through, and maybe someone that's listening, right? Like a Jocko Willink, a Dana White, maybe they can be our champion and they can help, fund this and push this out there. Chael Sonnen, people that have a voice, Demetrius Johnson, so on and so forth, because, its time has come. Its time has come. And if we want to do what's best for kids, let's start offering the kids, this outlet.
Absolutely. And I mean, just with the growth of MMA over the last, let's say 5 years, but like since I started fighting in 2007, which was like the dark days, right? And that's not even the darkest of days. It was, the Wild West back then. But from 2007 to 2013, when I stopped, was such a night and day difference. And then from 2017 to, or 2013 till now is a complete turnaround as well. So, I think it's starting to become more widespread. And it's so interesting that you say Cody Sanchez, because that's her name, right?
Mm-hmm.
I actually was listening to her.
So.
Yeah, I was listening to her. She's the business girl who buys the companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so cool that she's like got her head in that space as well, because I was just listening to her on Diary of a CEO this week while I was running. So if we can get brains like that more interested in it as well, then that means it's like coming to the masses that aren't just martial artists.
Oh, heck yeah. And think of all the other benefits too. Like as a result of training, our diet is so much better. I don't go around stuffing Big Macs in my mouth anymore because I know how I'm going to feel on the mat, right? I get adequate sleep now because my energy has been spent, and I really value, having good rest so that my body can recoup and then I can return to the mats and train again. Hydration, drinking so much less soda. I used to love Coca-Cola, but I'll only drink a soda now at the movie theater. It's water, or it's something else along those lines. So it has helped transform me in a number of different ways, and I know for a fact that we could help transform kids in a number of different ways. Like this could be the catalyst for change for a lot of young people that are struggling and that are looking for a tribe. Looking for someone that's going to be a good influence, on their lives, and then just set them up, for success. Its time has come. I'm glad we're having this conversation.
Yeah, and you know what? I actually forget about that sometimes, just like the other habits that it forms, right? Because when you're someone like you or like I that has been in this lifestyle for so long, it comes second nature. But we forget that like people are still eating McDonald's a lot, and people are still drinking sodas on a daily basis, and people are still eating candy and stuff like that. But when you have that outlet, it helps you be better at everything. And I think that's a great way to put it. When you have something that you care about that builds you in that manner, it helps you be better at everything.
Yeah, it helps create a well-rounded individual, and I wasn't trying to plug the show in any particular way, but like if you look at everything that we just spoke about, like that's a well-rounded individual, someone that's kind, someone that takes care of themselves nutritionally, someone that hydrates properly, sleeps properly. I know that I don't know if this is a direct result or correlation, but like I listen to books on tape now. I listen to podcasts where I want to feed my brain. I used to just listen to music when I worked out, but now there's something inside of me that's been awakened because of jiu-jitsu that makes me want to feed my brain when I work out now. So like when I go out on a walk, I'll probably, listen to a little Diary of a CEO. I'll listen, to a little Rogan. I'll listen, to Tim Ballou. Like there's so many people, Jocko, they bring on like these brains, and I don't know, I'm thirsty for knowledge too. So in a weird way, I think that jiu-jitsu has also been a catalyst for self-improvement, learning wise.
I relate to you so much that I actually used to dream about jiu-jitsu. And I think people from an outside source that watch it think that it's just like, a brawn sport, right? But it's such a brain sport. You really have to think. And I think that getting your brain moving in that direction is another reason why you see people who are within the sport or within other martial arts as well that have that thirst for knowledge, and that, you know, it's like a fire burning inside of you. Because I was smiling as you were talking about, you know, not being able to listen to music, because that's a transition that I've made over the last few years as well. Is anytime I go for a run, people think I'm an absolute psychopath because I'm going on 10-mile runs in the heat and listening to a podcast the whole time. They're like, how do you do this? I'm like, honestly, like, it's like invigorating for me because it feeds my brain. And it's hard for me to explain sometimes why that is. But I know that there was a switch that was flipped, and I think it came from just the constant seeking of improvement. And when you realize that you're constantly seeking to be better, it's really hard for you to intentionally do something that isn't that, right?
100%.
So there are times when, okay, I'm not going to be holier than thou. There are times when I'm on a run, my legs are so tired and I've literally got nothing, like, and I'm listening to a conversation that is stimulating, but in the moment I'm like, I literally need music right now. I need something like pounding my brain. But that's probably about only 10% of the time. So the other 90%, I'm looking to learn. And yeah, it's just there's a switch that gets flipped from consistently seeking. And, you know, not to get wholly honest or anything, but this brings me back to a conversation. It correlates well with a conversation that I had with my mom, because my mom's a really religious person. And I have always, my whole entire life, been a person that needs to know the why behind everything. And I've questioned everything my entire life. And so when she would, you know, hit me with like a lot of different like scripture and gospel and just, you know, good word, I would constantly be questioning and asking why and what's the reason and things behind that. And she said, Adam, I can't tell you when, I can't tell you how, but what I would like to ask of you is for you to continually seek, right? And when you continually seek, things happen, right? And the same thing with self-improvement and knowledge, right? Because they can work hand in hand, right? But it's the same premise of it. And seeking to improve at anything. And the reason why I used the God example is because that's something that I personally questioned for a long time. And I continually just wanted to know. I continually seek the why behind it. And I'm still seeking, but I am seeking. And things are happening in different ways, if that makes sense. I don't know if I just completely threw everyone for a loop, but or if that makes sense at
in
all.
The world. I think it does have to do with the problem-solving nature of combat sports. Like you are consistently like playing a game of Tetris or like a Rubik's Cube, and in order for you to be successful at it, not only do you have to be, you know, quote unquote, bigger, faster, stronger, but you also have to be a little bit wiser and a little bit smarter. And if you don't have those physical tools, like your brain really has to be sharp, you know. And there's several examples of this. Like I love my professor, Alex Morano, over there at Gracie Baja the Woodlands. Like if you were to look at him just walking around the street, you'd never think this is one of the baddest 170-pound men, you know, in the world. He doesn't look the part. And hopefully he doesn't get mad at me for saying that. I think he knows it. He's on the smaller side, you know, for those huge, you know, gargantuan, you know, walking physical specimens. But he goes in there and he pieces them up and he carves them out. And his two best attributes are his brain and his heart, you know. Yeah. And it just kind of speaks to that martial artist that lives inside of him, that, you know, when you can harness all of your potential, like we are capable of great things. And I think that's the beauty of martial arts and jiu-jitsu in particular. Even if you have other martial arts you like to lean on, you know, he loves his striking, but there's something about like jiu-jitsu that awakens or gets those embers starting to burn inside of your soul, and it awakens a lot of different things, you
Right.
know. And it's just
Big shout out to Alex Morono as well.
I love that
Gosh,
guy.
man, that guy's fun to watch too. I remember I think he was like 17 years old whenever he and I first met, and we would train. And man, people know him from the UFC, they don't quite know how good his jiu-jitsu is, because he goes out there and just like throws down, kill or be killed every time, and he kills a lot, you know. So, but the thing is he does have some pretty good submission wins as well, you know, in that welterweight division, which is super fun to watch. But man, again, I just want to give shout out to Alex Morono. That guy
Yeah.
is so much fun to watch, and his brain is the first thing that I ever noticed about him as well.
You should see him teach. Like, he is really, 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 you know, found himself as a teacher and a coach. And to watch him teach and explain these concepts, which are very complex, you know, but he breaks them down, makes them very simple, and he's very detail oriented, you know. And it's beautiful to watch. Me as a teacher, I go to Gracie Baja to learn, you know, jujitsu and whatnot. But when I watch him and, you know, Coach Matt Wald, you know, instruct their classes, I have an opportunity to watch world-class instruction each and every day. Part of the reason why, like, I'm a highly decorated teacher is because I get to go watch, you know, two of the best at their craft, you know, 3, 4 times a week. And for me, that's the best professional development that I've ever had as an educator, is to watch two master teachers like that.
Yeah.
And think about the learning tree. Like, he goes and learns from Saif Saud over there at Fortis, you know, in Dallas, who has a whole stable of UFC guys.
Right.
Like, that is a learning tree.
And that's what's so impressive about Alex too, is that like he still is in there instructing, you know, because it's his craft, right? That's his craft. Whether he fought in the UFC or not, that's his craft. And that's where he's like, ultimately, he's going to bring so much value to the world for so long after he's done fighting, because of that, because he's humble.
Oh, you can see it. You can see it, Adam. That's one of the things that inspires me to want to really get this movement going. I can see the change that he's making in the world, you know, and the same with Coach Matt Wald on the striking side. I know it's been a while since you've been in H-Town. Adam, the gym has exploded. You know, we don't got that little corner spot, you know, on Rayford Road anymore. We got this ginormous facility, probably like 5-10 minutes away. And it was really neat because he gambled on himself. You know, he took on a little bit more than he could, you know, gambled on himself that he was going to win a big fight, take that bonus money and apply it to the gym, and it all worked out. You know, but it's nice to see when someone walks their path.
Yeah, I love that.
That's a very special thing too, because a lot of people have goals, but not a lot of people actually like walk their path, and it gives me hope, you know, that, you know, dreams are possible.
And you know what's insane is, well, not insane, but what I think is so special about it is, when I met 17-year-old Alex, this was exactly what he was already planning to do. So he's probably 32 or 33 now. And so for the last 16 years, he's already known. And I feel like, yeah, he gambled on himself, but he already knew. He manifested it. So, man, we could go into that a million times. That watching his success has been really inspiring and satisfying for me to see, because I've always really liked that guy.
Yeah, and the same thing for Ricky, right? Like, you were there when Ricky must have been a little 14, 15-year-old.
Man, I used to go watch Ricky, and for those who are listening who don't know who Ricky we're talking about Ricky Tercius, who won the Ultimate Fighter. So I went to, when I was first, this was like, I think winter of 2010, I used to go watch Ricky wrestle in his high school wrestling matches on his senior year. And then he would go win those kickboxing tournaments. So he's always been special as well.
Yeah, and you could see like the power of journaling with him, you know, if because I would also like to speak to our teammates' brains too. I don't want to just talk about the bronze and whatnot. Like both of those guys, one of their most deadly weapons is their brain and their focus and their ability to zero in on what it is that they want and then go get it. Because we've seen them hop in the cage with people that are, you know, physical specimens, and that if you were to give them the eye test, you're like, hey, no way they're going to beat this guy. But time and time again, you know, their head and their heart, you know, the two strongest, you know, muscles in their body. And it's It's beautiful to see. And those are two of the kindest, two of the most gentle, two of the most warm human beings. And they just happen to be, some bad dudes,
Yeah.
so that's why I'm advocating, let's help out some kids that are in a rough spot. Let's help out some kids that traditional methods are not working for them, and let's take a chance. Let's get out of the status quo. Like, what is it? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a
Expecting the
different
same
result.
or a different result. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, let's get up in the hood and let's help some of these, young men out and zap that piss and vinegar, give them, someone strong to follow, and let's see what we can do. We can't do any worse than what they're
Yeah.
doing.
Well, we've got a lot of really great examples, and I love what you said there. Like, with a strong mind and a strong heart, what can't be done?
Nothing. Literally nothing, man.
Right.
It's all possible. It's all on the table, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about some of these kids, right? So you're coaching and teaching in middle schools, correct?
I'm a middle school teen leadership teacher, and then I'm also the girls basketball coach, and then a track coach.
Okay. So, there's a lot to be said. Every generation before thinks the next generation is just gonna just ruin it for everybody. So, you know, Gen Zers, lazy, Gen Zers, this or that. They're quite smart in their own ways. Well, what are some things that you find super optimistic about the future working with young teens?
Oh man, this is a really good question. I'm very optimistic with these young people. One of the biggest reasons is that like they're tuned in to what's going on in the world. It's not like an adult world and a kid world because of social media and because of their access to phones. Like they know what's going on. When we were younger, there was things that we didn't have to worry about. It was just grown folks' business. And now, because everyone's got a phone in their pocket, like it's everybody's business. So like they're tuned in and they care. Now they've got some emotional deals going on, and they're not, emotionally regulated just yet, and equipped to handle what's going on in the world. But they're aware, and that makes me incredibly optimistic because like that's how we can make positive change, right? Like if you want to, let's say, change your physique, you have to be aware that your food choices are not helping you, right? So the first thing that everyone needs if we're going to make any kind of a change is to be aware. And these kids are very aware. Second thing, they're very resourceful. Because of technology, they could seek out just about anything that they want and how to do it. YouTube has been like a blessing and a curse, right? Like they can learn anything that I'm teaching them if they go watch a YouTube video, and it's probably going to be a little more entertaining. But with that being said, they have the resources to do things. So like these kids that have talent, their talent has been put on steroids because they've researched it and they've watched it on YouTube and they've learned how to get ahead of the game because now they have the resources to be better. It's a blessing. It's a curse too. Sometimes it's like, drinking information out of a water hose. It's too much.
Right. Yeah, the overload of information can. I mean, I think that's probably like a reason why so many young people are riddled with anxiety too, is because we just have so much at the touch of our fingers. It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, too much. Way too much. You're 100% right on that. I think that's one of the biggest causes of all this anxiety disorder. Like we all have anxiety, right? Like it's a human trait. We get anxious, but the amount of anxiety that these kids are experiencing, it's through the roofs. So I think a lot of it's like it's too much too soon.
Right. I think what we've just spoken on comes back to another great argument for martial arts in school.
100%. Yeah, because when you're on the mats, dude, nothing else matters. Like you're able to tune out. When I go to Jiu-Jitsu, I go to kickboxing, nothing else matters. I have to zero in, on the instruction, and I have to zero in on the drilling and the rolling and the sparring in order to, I guess, not hurt myself or hurt my training partner, and to make sure that I'm not getting, drug around like a wet rag. And that's something these kids don't have. They're consistently linked into technology 24/7, and that's not healthy. I can feel it when I'm on there too much, Adam. Like when I'm scrolling too much, I start to get weird headaches and I start to get anxious.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm a little bit irritable. It
Yeah.
messes with your like dopamine and whatnot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can all relate with that. Like just being on the phone too much during a day happens to me way too often. That might say something about my phone habits, but it happens to me way too often. That's when I know I need to set it down. I need to go to Sims, or I need to go for a run, or I need to hit the gym, or I just need to do something where I can stop thinking about what ifs and start thinking about what nows.
100%. I'm gonna go for a walk when we get through with this, Adam. Because I've been staring at the screen, all day.
Yeah.
It's like I have to go hit my 4 mile walk. At the least, at the minimum, I'm gonna go walk. 4 miles after this. It's just a necessity. It's discipline because I don't want to do it. It's hot out here, man. It's like 100 degrees, but I know that it's good for my head. I know it's good for my heart.
Yeah, absolutely. You and I both. When I'm done here, I'm going home and gonna hit the streets myself. We've got a couple podcasts on deck that I haven't touched on. Yet. So I want to talk about your podcast a little bit. Because what a great new technology to spread powerful information, to have these type of long form conversations, right? I think it's so important for people who take the time, right, to sit down and listen to things in context on a longer form than just snippets. But you've been 100 and what? How many?
I think 175.
That is, it has to be in the top 1% of like podcasts that have made it that far, right? Because I think there are statistics that there's something like 90% of podcasts don't go past 4 episodes, and of those 90%, another 90% don't go past 20, right?
Yes.
So 147 episodes, that is impressive, first and foremost. I mean, I hope to follow in your footsteps with what I'm doing here. What do you what's been the most successful part of your success within that realm? Because if I'm not mistaken, do you do it all, produce it all on your own?
Well, that's a couple of different answers I'm gonna have to give you on that
Okay,
one.
sorry, I'll be quiet and let you answer me.
Yeah. So what has made me consistent and successful is that I enjoy it. Like right now, like me and you talking over the computer right now, or me and somebody else sitting across the table and having a conversation. I genuinely enjoy it. It doesn't feel like work. It feels good. It actually feels like I've read a book. Reading is hard for me. I'm not a reader. I write kids' books, but reading is extremely difficult for me. I have to read a page like 3 or 4 times for it to make sense. But when I talk to someone, I feel like I can extrapolate just as much information, if not more. And it's meaningful and it's fun. Like we do things that are fun. We revisit things that are fun. So there's the fun factor. What was the other question? Oh, I know what it was. And then it started off with just a cell phone, and sitting in between me and, someone having a conversation. And slowly it's grown into having a 4-person team, someone that does our graphic art, someone that does the videoing, someone that does the editing. And it's been kind of a similar thing for them too, like those are the things that they enjoy. And we're just trying to see if we can make a run of it because it is a labor of love. This, like it's not easy getting guests all the time. You could submit a request and sometimes people ghost you and they don't say anything. Sometimes they say yeah and they never get back to you. Like you have to have thick skin in this game, but if you love what you're doing, man, like you're gonna keep doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can tell you love what you're doing. You're good at it too, man.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it. That was one of the things that I came into just this whole realm as my goal, right? So I didn't have any type of goal for like the end game. What I wanted to do was bring valuable information to people who would like to hear it and love what I do as I'm doing it. Because whether 100,000 people watch this or 0 people watch this, I'm enjoying it just the same because I would sit down and have this conversation with you if there weren't cameras here. and I would leave more full than I came in. And I think that's important.
Yeah, and it's a lost art, right? So if we're able to hold conversations like this, I really do feel like it opens up a lot of doors. I think it differentiates us from other people if we're ever like in an interview process, or if we're trying out for something, or if there's something that we really, really, really want. I think that this skill of being able to speak to somebody, I think that it's extremely important, and it's a rarity nowadays. You know, it's kind of like what's old is new and what's new is old. Well, you know what? Old school conversation is coming back. You
Yeah.
know, and
Making it
some
come
of us
back.
are going to be able to do it pretty well.
And it just comes down to continually being curious about the world and curious about other people. And really, I think it's important to highlight what other people bring to just value to the world. And this platform is, where it's going to be moving forward. I saw some crazy statistic, or I listened to a crazy statistic. It may have been, it was on a podcast, but they were talking about CNN, and they were talking about primetime spot 3 nights a week for like an hour long, and like what they thought the viewership was. And they were guessing very high, and it was something like 30 or 47,000 people for a week. And it's like, oh my gosh, like I have that many views on one of my reels and I'm nobody right now. You know what I mean? Like it's this platform and this just form of communication is going to really change a lot of things.
Yeah, and it's going to give birth to a lot of ideas, and people are going to hear things that they've been thinking their whole life, and it's going to hit them like a ton of bricks. Like, oh, I'm not the only one that thinks like this, or this was a good idea, and there are other people that think like me.
And that's another great way for someone to find their tribe too.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'm part of a couple of podcasts and tribes, man, but I love the people they bring on. I feel like I grow as a result of listening to them, and hopefully people grow as a result of listening, to your podcast and my podcast. I think we bring a lot to the table.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a big reason why. As soon as we talked, I was like, yeah, absolutely. You have so much valuable information to contribute, and I knew that. A, I was going to enjoy talking to you, and it's good to chop it up and catch up. But B, just the gems that you drop each time that you have a podcast, or anytime we talk, and people listen, it's going to improve just the way they think. So that's awesome, man. So we're getting towards closer to an hour right now. What else is there? What else would you kind of just like to touch on? And is there anything else that you specifically wanted to chat about here today?
I don't know, man. I think we hit on the books and we hit on the podcast. Just in general, man, I think the world would be a much better place if we could all be a lot more kind, and just the power of conversation, right? Like, people, like, when do we get in trouble? It's like when we under communicate, right? So I think along the lines of what we were talking about earlier, it's like if we learn to communicate with one another, instead of behind a screen, or texting and DMing, did you hear what he said, did you hear what she said, and just have conversations where we're just exchanging ideas, eye to eye, shoulder to shoulder. Like, the world would be a much better place. So I'd love to advocate for just bringing conversations back.
Yeah.
Because that, as a teacher, I can see that it's missing. That's one of the spots where, like, kids are deficient. There's more ways to communicate, but they communicate way less, and it's not very meaningful. It's very surface level.
Yeah, man, I'm so glad that you brought this up, because it's a lost art form almost, because there have been days that I know that I can remember that I'm like, I've been communicating with all day. I haven't talked to anyone.
Yes.
And my head hurts because of it.
Yes. Like, so that's one of the things we try to do in my teen leadership class. We try to do a lot of activities to where young people are forced to interact, so they see it's not the end of the world, and they can get over their nerves and their anxiety and whatnot. Because you'd be surprised how many kids say like, "Oh, I can't do this. I have anxiety." It's like, hey, we all got anxiety, man. Just get up there and do it. Try it, and you'll see it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Do it once. I guarantee you, man, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna live. And hey, no one really cares either. That's another thing. We all got that main character syndrome.
Yeah.
No one cares.
Yeah, they're all thinking about themselves too.
Yes.
And the obstacle is the way, right? Whatever you're afraid of, do it. Go towards that. Do that. The obstacle is the way. And you're going to be happy you did afterwards. Even if it doesn't go exactly how you wanted, we learn.
Yeah, try everything, right? There's that girl that you want to ask out. Go ask her out. What's she going to say? No. At least you know.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you don't want to live with the regret and figure out like she liked you the whole time, and you just never worked up the courage, and now she's dating your best friend or something like that. Like, these are scenarios that actually happen. So I encourage all these young people, like, go try these things. If there's a business you want to start, go start it. Go see what happens. What if it doesn't work? Well, big deal. You know what? It's better that you tried, and at least you know.
Yep.
So that'd probably be like the last thing I'd say is I encourage people to go try the thing that they want to do. If you want to go try a martial arts academy, go try it. If there's a job you want to apply for, go try it. Like, regret is a hell of a lot worse than hearing an answer of no. Yeah. That's my wisdom from this 45-year-old man.
Man, I love it. And thank you so much for dropping that, because people need it. People need to hear it. They need to have the gems from the people who've been there and who've done that and continue to work towards improvement. Before we wrap up, let's let everyone know where they can find your books and how we can support you.
Okay. So you can find my books on my landing page. It's coachortiz.com, ORTIZ. And you can find my podcast there. You can find my social media accounts over there. And it's kind of like a one-stop shop, and then you got all the other things like Instagram, at Chris Ortiz 3946, and I'm on Facebook and whatnot. But I would say go to coachortiz.com, and just see if you like anything. And, at worst, hit the like button or subscribe button or something.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be picking up some books from my boy, too. He just started kindergarten. So we're going to we already read, but we need some new reads, too. And he likes to rhyme, so it's going to be perfect.
They're all rhyming, baby.
Excellent, man. Well, Chris, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being a part of this podcast. Thank you for bringing me on my first ever podcast. I appreciate you as a coach, a father, a person. Man, we didn't even get to, I was going to ask you a question about having grown kids. Like, how'd you do it? But
hey, man,
there's always room for next time.
Conversation for another day.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, just thank you for being who you are, and thank you for being a light in a world that needs it.
Man, and hey, right back at you, man. Love what you're doing. I really enjoy to watch young people like yourself chase the things that make you happy. You look like you're doing good. You look like $1 million. I see you, with your father game, so keep putting that energy out into the world, because there's a whole legion of lost young men out there that need direction, and maybe just catching a video of you spending some time with your son, will wake him up and say, like, I need to go pick my son up, take him to a movie, or I need to get off my phone and we need to go for a walk, or just something like that. You're doing good in the world. So whether it's through your words or your actions, I see you, and I know other people see you. So I want to wish you the best of luck, man, and love you. And I mean it.
Thank you, brother. I love you too, man. I appreciate you. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This is episode 7 now, so I'm super pumped. Again, if you're watching this, please hit that subscribe button on the YouTube. Follow me on Spotify as well. We're going to have all these episodes up on Spotify as well. We're going to continue to grow, continue to get better here, continue to bring valuable conversations to help you become more well-rounded as well. And we will see you next week.